Hi, it's John from Crafts by John UK. Today I'm going to talk about this card that I've made and some of the artistic decisions that I've made when making it along the way. So if you're interested to see, stay tuned. As I've said, this is today's card, and you can see it's mainly a die cut of a manger scene with Mary and Jesus and the rest, and a simple sentiment on the side. This is backed on a handmade background. I made this with just some watercolor paper. I used the, I think, brushed corduroy and salvaged patina distress oxides. So first of all, I cut a piece to size. I then colored it with a sponge, just with the patina, the blue, kind of fading across this side. And then I used a piece of acetate to daub the brown, and then I smushed it onto the card. So that's basically how I've created the background. There is a video of that technique on my channel if you want to see it. You can, I think you'll agree though, it's quite nice. It looks like a professionally made paper, but you can make this stuff yourself so much easier and so much cheaper. So what I've done is I've got those backgrounds. So I've got one here. This is one I prepared, and I've also got another one as well. So you can see I kind of batch make these. I made a whole load of them basically. And you can see there is a slight grade in color. So you've got a blue to this side fading to almost white, and the same blue to white here. We don't want absolute white on our background, but in this scenario, I've left it kind of light just so you get a little bit of difference. And you'll see the natural variations as well that you get in the brown. You get some sort of big dense areas, and then lots of little small ones as you kind of smush. So I've got those two. Now, that's my background, and obviously I've made it using those distress oxides. This is my die, which is an unbranded one. I think I bought from Temu or somewhere. It's got quite a lot of nice detail in it. It cuts the panels out, and it cuts itself out of a piece of paper. So what I've done is I've taken just a black rectangle and cut this out, and you can see that's kind of how it looks. Now on this card, you'll notice that I have ripped this down. I don't like these hard edges, and I decided with the style of the background, it would look better with a kind of a ripped, softened edge. The issue I had is when I ripped it down, I then felt it was very closed off on this side. I wanted to put a sentiment here, but this really clashed. And you can kind of see what I mean, really. This closes it up. So the sentiment would have been really off to the side. And in my mind, it just didn't work. So anyway, I was looking at it. So I'm going to go through that same process with you with this one. So I've got this version. I'll actually need to make another background if I do this, because I'll then have the die cut and no background to put it on. So when I rip, people have asked me to sort of explain how I do this. I do it in very small pieces. People who rip in a great big long strip, that's when it tends to go out of control and you kind of lose any sense of direction. So you can't actually control where the tears go. Also, if you rip small like this, you get more of the up and down. I'm hoping you can see this on the camera, but every little bit that you do, every little pull that you do gives you a kind of a variation in the tear. So you can see there, you've got a really nice kind of up and down line. I've got to be careful, I'm actually squeezing this a little bit. But anyway, so this is how I do it. And also doing it this way, you can control how much you tear off. Look, I'm barely tearing anything off here at all. So that's the other thing. It's beneficial in terms of being able to control the amount of paper that you actually take off. I'm just going around this. I'm just going to quickly kind of rip it just to make the point. If I ruin this, it doesn't really matter, to be honest, but I just wanted to kind of show you the process. So tear all the way around. I'm going to tear the bottom as well. And then I'll show you the difference it makes, kind of making an artistic decision like that, where you rip a lump off. I looked at it, and I just thought there's something about this. I can't really quite make my mind up what's wrong with it. I kind of laid it out, went to bed, woke up in the morning, looked at it with fresh eyes, and again thought there's something, I just can't put my finger on this. And then I finally realized it's because of this closed off side. And I looked at the image and I thought, well, people's eyes, they flow from left to right typically. Most people are right-handed. And I thought, I'm actually just going to rip the corner off this, which is what I ended up doing. And I was much, much happier with it when I had. Right, I'm just tearing that last bit. This bit doesn't really matter actually, because I'm going to tear it off anyway. There you go. So there are my strips, which obviously I'll just chuck in my paper bin. So I then grab one of these bases, and I would lay this on. Now, I'm making sure that the blue is to the right and the lighter is to the left. So this is kind of how I was thinking to lay it out. And you can see my point, that this becomes a card in itself. This area is kind of an afterthought, and that's the problem I have with it. So the stamp for this is in my stamping platform still. You can see it's there, fill your heart with Christmas cheer. That would happily sit on there. I can just take it off and show you actually. But the point is, it doesn't kind of work because of this closed off corner that we've got. So the stamp would sit there. This feels like one thing, that feels like another. Yet if you look here, because this is open, it feels part of the same story. So this was where I came up with this really strange idea. Well, why don't I just rip this off? So basically, I just took a line and I kind of just tore it there and I tore it down there, basically. Opened that up. Obviously, this one's got a little bit bent, but I can flatten that. That then sits there. And you can see now, when I stamp the words there, because this side of the die is now open, it kind of seems open to the fact that the sentiment is part of the same story. And I think you'll agree here that that's much better. If this was still here, if this frame was still here, this would have had to been way over. The spacing wouldn't have been sort of relatively equal around the sides. And also this is just closed off. It's kind of closing off this side of the card where you want the image and the message to be part of one cohesive design. So that's what I did basically. I just made that artistic decision, ripped that corner off. I then stuck this down just using some basic PVA glue. I stamped the sentiment. You can see I've embossed that with just some clear ultrafine wow embossing powder. And then I just mounted it on a tiny little black frame and then onto a 9x20 card blank. And you can see that's a really nice looking card. That palette, this kind of blue and brown, is quite a nice palette that people love, this kind of teal colour. So that's a nice card. But it could have looked quite different, obviously, if I'd actually just left the die kind of as it was meant to be, because it would have closed this side off. So anyway, that might help people out. It might just make you think twice about a die or a card if you're struggling with the design, it's not working. Don't be afraid to rip it and make some changes and use stuff in a way that it wasn't designed to, because ultimately these are your cards, you personalize them, you make those decisions every time. So make a decision and be happy with it. And if it, works out better for the design, well, then it's a good decision. Anyway, hope you've enjoyed that. It's a fairly short technique video today. More videos on my channel, both for techniques and card making. If you want to check it out, if you like the videos, you like my style, please give me a like and maybe subscribe. Thanks a lot for your time today and speak to you soon.